Okay, good morning everyone. Very wet morning. So we're going to start just by kind of warming up the pelvis, the sitting bones that we're sitting on. Just kind of move it around, non-structural, just kind of warm it up. Find out if you're breathing when you're doing the circles, if you're doing circles. Maybe change direction. Kind of just get some blood moving. Our mindset when it rains is just to cuddle up and close in. And so I thought that today we're going to cross the midline. So sit in the center, your feet underneath your knees, your hip is on the edge of the chair. And we're going to start by taking the right arm and crossing it to the left and opening it up. So you exhale as you cross, and you inhale as you open up, and you exhale as you cross, and you inhale as you open up. So those are the instructions. And now as you know the trajectory, you know the direction, you know the shape, start following the breath with a movement of the arm. See if you can soften up the arm. And how will the softening up of the arm will come about? Maybe you can move the ribs with the arm. And inhale. And exhale and allow the ribs. So are the ribs moving just forward? Or is there also a movement of forward and down? What is it that you're doing? And stop in the center. And take a deep breath and see if anything's changed. If this side that you worked with maybe feels a little bit more fuller, lighter, more able to get oxygen into that lung. So let's try if we do it to the left. So first we just move the arm and find out what kind of movement. If the edge of the middle finger had a paint on it, what kind of shape would you be drawing? And now as you know the shape, what else can you do to soften the movement? And to use less and less muscles, and more the coordination that brings about the shape, the grace, and the effortlessness. Are you exhaling as you're twisting? Are you inhaling as you're opening up? Where do you feel the rotation? And come back to center. And just calm the body down for a minute. Maybe close your eyes. And just feel. And now we're going to do it again. This time we're going to start by rolling the shoulder forward and taking the arm after it. And bring the shoulder back. And roll the shoulder and the arm will come after it. So now the arm is like a limb that we have no possibility, like there's no connection between the brain and the arm. And the movement of the shoulder is the one that will bring the arm over. And people that have strokes many times use that variation to be able to get the arm to where they need to be. And the next time we're still going to do this arm, but instead of just moving the shoulder, we're going to move the shoulders forward, but we're going to move the left hip back See if that makes it a little bit more powerful. So the left hip goes back and the shoulder helps. Boom. So now the arm doesn't have to drag ta-tam, but it can be like in one motion. At least for me. How is it for you? And I exhale when I go with my hip back. I exhale. Let's try the other side, but before we do that, just pause in the middle. As we grow older, we get set in our ways. Actually, we don't have to grow older for that. We can get set on our ways when we're young too, but especially when we're older, we're so set in our habits. So start unraveling and finding more options is not a bad idea. And only the shoulder, and drag the arm. And only the shoulder. Shoulder leads. Is this side harder for you? Easier for you? Like I have a little bit of a scoliosis in my upper shoulder blades, in this section of my upper thoracic, and going to this direction, I noticed it's more clump, 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 clump. It's not as smooth. So now we're going to add the pelvis and the shoulder to see if that will help. It's still not as smooth as the other side for me. Are you exhaling as you're moving back? And let's do it one more time. And come to the center. And maybe close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. And get a sensation or an inner picture of you sitting with the sitting bones on the chair. That's a feedback loop with your feet on the ground. Again, this is a counter to where we are, which helps us to know where we are in space. And open your eyes and just roll your hip back and forth a few times. Now it's a little bit more directed than we did in the beginning. Just a few times, forward and back. And the next time we're going to go forward, we're going to go with the right hip forward, pa-pam. So I have an angle here. Ta-tam. So for me to go with the right hip forward, I have to allow the left hip to go back. And if you notice, the right knee will go further forward. I actually fall with my sitting bones, I fall off the chair. You don't have to. I can go backwards a little bit and stay on the chair. What does your head and neck do when you are off balance like this with the right hip forward? Are you taking your head with you, or are you countering it with keeping the head over the knee that's going forward? What is your solution? How is your nervous system make you feel secure and comfortable? And let's do the other side. left hip forward. How sensitive can you be to the differences, to the changes that between your right side and your left side? So like, even though I can do the movement and I have the range, I can sense inside me that this side is way more using effort. So now I'm going to try to play with it, and I'm going to try to do less and see if I can reduce the inner effort. So it's not about just doing the movement, it's also about how I do the movement. So is there a way for me to actually do the movement without the effort? So if I slow it down enough and make it small enough for me to notice. So I'm directing you, but I'm directing myself at the same time. Because we all have those differences between one side, what we call my good leg, my bad leg, my hip this, my hip this. So instead of like categorizing it like this and give it bad names and call it names, maybe we can become more friendly with that leg or with that hip or with that movement, and actually explore how to befriend it. What does the body need to be able to do the movement where it is not limited, where it's not giving you pain? The old paradigm of pushing through is not working right here, right now. Let's put it that way. Okay, in center. And close your eyes for a second and just listen. So you're taking your attention from the eyes looking out at the screen to the eyes looking inside, picturing your feet on the floor, your sitting bones on the chair. Good. And now we're going to do the right arm again, going to the left, but now we're going to pay attention to anything that you were doing earlier and worked for you, whether it's taking the pelvis forward and back, but now we're going to also focus on the movement of the eyes and the head and the neck, and see if that arch that you're drawing with your fingers, is that arch is happening in the movement of your eyes. So even more of ourselves, our whole totality. So we have the pelvis, we have the ribs that's going forward and down, and we have the eyes that's going across and down. And you can do it with the hip going forward and back in a quick movement. You can do it with initiation of the shoulder going forward, throwing the arm. And you can do it with the eyes going first. It's like when we run up the stairs, it's like, I'll be first. So the eyes want to see where the rest of the body is going to follow. So get there with the eyes. Get there with the eyes. Get there with the eyes. And for you to do it with the eyes like this, the hip has to do that twist as much. Good. This morning I had a client that came over. He's actually pitching in with a ball, And he comes with a shoulder problem because these muscles are overworking. So how to teach him to actually use more of that. And that brought me to our class today. Because he was standing and the arm has to come like this, the hip has to come forward and the arm is crossing. So it's the same movement that we're doing here on the chair. And stay in the center, rest for a minute. And that's something that I notice more and more in my life, that everything is right there if we're willing to pay attention. So today's class came of just what happened an hour before that. And that's really fun to watch. Okay, so now we're going to do the left arm to the right with the eyes doing the same arch. So this is another variation. And the more variation you have, the more synapses in the brain. The body is not separate from what's going on in the brain. And because the brain is plastic and flexible, it learns. So we're going to get with the eyes to where we want to go. We're going to get there. Notice if your pelvis is moving now a little bit better, if your ribs are moving better, if your shoulder is moving better. We're crossing. And you can slow it down or you can make it fast. And how is it different? And come back to center and close your eyes. And get a sensation, an inner sensation of what your body is feeling like. Where are your ribs in relationship to your breath? Can you feel your breath pushing your ribs? Can you feel your breath touching the ribs on one side more than the other side? Are you sitting on top of your sitting bones? Roll behind it. And roll on top of it. And now we're going to start with the eyes very slowly. Take the eyes down and back to the right. And feel how the right ribs are moving backwards. So the hands are on the thighs, they're not involved anymore. We're just going to feel what the ribs are doing. So we're going to take the eyes down and back. So they're doing like an arabesque shape. Can you feel the ribs moving, making room? Stay down here and try to breathe. And on the next inhalation, come back up, allow the eyes to arc back to the center. And the ribs to come back to their center. And take a breath. And now start the arc into the left. So the eyes are rolling down and back. And your ribs are moving backwards. Your neck muscles are rotating. And obviously your right shoulder is now more forward than your left. And come back up. And do the arc again. Are you exhaling? How much of you is moving, even though it's very small? It's an integrated movement through your spine, starting with your eyes, going through your neck, going into the thoracic, into your back area, and ending down at your hip. And now stay here and breathe. And on the next inhalation, please come back up. And stay in the center. I don't know about you, but I'm sweating. It's deep. It's not hard, but it's very deep, and it takes a lot of integration. The next one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to arc the eyes to the right, down and back. We're going to allow a full rotation. So even feel your knees moving. Your left knee is a little bit in front of the right knee. Your left shoulder is a little bit in front of the right shoulder. And now go ahead and take your right arm and lift it up. And put it over your head, maybe reaching towards above the right ear. So the elbow is facing up towards the ceiling. And now the elbow will go down towards the right knee and up towards the ceiling. So we're forcing the ribs to move even further back. Lower the rib down. Not the rib, the elbow down, sorry. And lift the elbow up. And move the elbow down. We're crossing the body and we are increasing the rotation. The right forearm is laying on my thigh, resting, not doing anything. I'm trying to work with my ribs and my thoracic vertebrae and allow them to rotate. Now, can you include the eyes? The eyes are arcing down and back and arcing forward and up. And I'm exhaling down and back and inhaling and come back to the center. We're coming towards the end of the class, so that means the end of the variations, even though I can probably go on and on and on. So now we're going to arc the eyes to the left, down and back, allowing the full rotation of the ribs, the shoulders, the hip, the knees. And now we're going to take the right arm and bring the hand over the left ear. My elbow is up. My left forearm is resting, and the elbow will go down, and my left ribs are going back. And if you have scoliosis, one side definitely will be a little harder than the other. But how much can you allow the breath and the rotation in the area that doesn't want to move. Can the arcing of the eyes and the hand follow the elbow, painting then another arc? So we have an arc with the elbow, and we have an arc with the eyes, and we have an arc with the shoulder going backwards, and we have an arc with the hip, even smaller. But all those little lines of drawing in the space, you can give each corner a different color. The elbow is in blue, the hip is in red, the eyes are in yellow, the shoulder is in green. They're making in different heights, like airplane in the sky that's not going to meet one another, and different sizes. So we have a little party going on in space. And last time, exhaling, going back. And if you forget one part, notice it and maybe include it on the next time. And take your arm down. And allow your eyes to close and for your attention to draw within. Where are your feet on the ground? Where is your hip on the chair? Where are your shoulders over your hip? How much room do you have now to breathe in towards your ribs? And open your eyes and just one stretch to feel that we are alive and the fibers are moving and the muscles are stretching and the tendons have length. Oh, that feels so good. And I hope that this movement and the ability to move the spine will give you a better mobility through the day. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me.